Well, good afternoon, everybody, and welcome once again to the United Regional Chambers Weekly Update. We try to bring you some interesting guests and some interesting subjects. And with the devastation that we faced on the September 11th floods, I'm pleased to bring on Miss Tauheedah Mateen. She's a public affairs specialist with the Office of Disaster and Recovery and Resilience at the Small Business Administration from the U.S. Small Business Administration. Ms. Tauheedah, welcome.
Hi, thank you for having me. Good to be here.
Well, it's a timely subject. I know that you've just come into the area to try and help out a lot of the businesses. But before we get into that, tell us a little bit about you first.
Yes, so good introduction. Thank you. My name is Tauheedah Mateen, and I'm a public affairs specialist with the U.S. Small Business Administration Office of Disaster Recovery and Resilience. And I am in Massachusetts right now just to ensure that business owners and all the people who went through the last year floods understand how to get the assistance that they need and continue their recovery efforts.
Awesome. Well, first off, tell us about the types of disaster loans that are available and the difference between the three of them.
Right. So there are physical loans for homeowners and renters in disasters and business owners. There is economic injury for businesses that they can submit an application if they lost any type of revenue from the incident that happened in September. And also there is businesses who can apply for the physical as well. So there not only are the loans available to businesses of any size for physical damages, but homeowners and renters as well. And then the third is businesses can apply for working capital as well.
Well, tell us a little bit, what sorts of damages would potentially qualify for these programs?
So that's a great question. So any damages physical damages that people suffered from last September. So let's say if your basement got flooded or the bottom of your store got flooded and your drywall is messed up, you lost your carpets, you lost equipment, you lost machinery. For those renters, you lost a television, you lost your couch, even your automobiles. So the SBA program, disaster relief program, is very robust. The program can be used for so many things. But number one, because physical damages are something that we all can see physically and touch and see that it's damaged. But not only that is as well for business owners can receive help with their economic injury. So a lot of these states, of course, they're very small, very close together. So if there's a business in Massachusetts that lost like a supply chain from, let's say, Rhode Island or Connecticut, they can submit an application as well for economic injury, just to keep up paying the bills as if the flooding never happened.
Okay, can you tell us what are the differences between a business owner versus an individual or a renter?
Yeah, so it's just the way that, their businesses are set up. Businesses are, they have a kind of like a well-rounded recovery through SBA, because not only will we help them with their physical damages, as I mentioned, but it's also their working capital. Unfortunately, homeowners and renters can only submit an application through SBA for physical damages, and that's where FEMA comes in as well. Homeowners and renters need to submit an application with FEMA, use SBA as a backup plan, and you can do that simultaneously at the same time you can apply. For businesses, you don't have to go through anybody else. You can, unless of course you have like a local, something local to your state or your city that helps businesses, but you can come directly to the SBA and submit your application. We always say that, SBA is more of a long-term funds. It is a low interest loan. It does have to be paid back up to, those 30 years, but we'll get into that later. But as far as homeowners and renters and business owners just, come directly to SBA. FEMA, unfortunately, doesn't have a program for businesses. So you can just come and submit your application with SBA. Homeowners and renters, you can use FEMA, you can use SBA funds at the same time.
Okay, from my understanding, and FEMA has opened up an office in Attleboro,
yes,
at the Bristol Community College. But we'll get into that one in a little bit.
Okay, sure.
Tell us what sort of restrictions are there on loan eligibility for these programs?
Yeah, so the most common types of denials would be insufficient credit history or lack of repayment ability. And I always tell people, look, with the repayment ability, with the credit history, sometimes there are small mistakes that we make that I've seen on these applications. Someone may leave out a zero in their income. So then they'll get a letter that says, oh, you can't repay the loan. So that's just a matter of getting into the reacceptance process, the reconsideration process. You have 6 months to do so when you receive a letter that's not favorable decision to you. I just recommend people do not throw away those letters. It will tell you exactly the reason why we could not help you with a low interest loan, but you do have a reconsideration, a reacceptance process, 6 months from the date of that letter that you received. But read through it carefully. It will tell you exactly what we need to continue the process.
Right. A lot of this water damage happened back in September. Is there any relief available for businesses or residents who just couldn't wait for these loans and had to go ahead and do the repairs right away?
Yes, absolutely. Submit an application, loan application for reimbursements. So here's how that works. So the interest rates for this declaration is extremely low. Home loans and renters as low as 2.5%. Businesses as low as 4%, nonprofit organizations 2.375%. So if you put your repairs on a credit card that has 28%, 25%, then what we will do is be able to pay yourself back and save that interest, save that 20% interest or whatever the difference is.
Okay, a lot of the focus is placed on repairing the damage, but are there opportunities to use these loans to help with improvements or to help mitigating any future weather-related crisis?
Exactly. So one thing that I really want to stress to the listeners that these storms are coming quicker and quicker, right? So now is the time that we have to talk about mitigation. So you went through the floods, the flash floods, you didn't have a warning that it was coming. Now's the time to submit your application with the SBA. We are able to increase your funds by 20% to help with mitigation. Now, mitigation is just a fancy word for making your structure stronger and better and more resilient for the next storm that may come around. You can lift your structure. You can put a sump pump in. You can get windproof windows. So things like that, just making your structure a little bit better. And, it's very important. We have to start talking about it. So don't hesitate to get those fundings for mitigation. But with that, you already have to have been an SBA approval, and then we increase your approval to help with mitigation measures.
Almost like a two-step process.
Yeah, absolutely. And those applicants have 2 years to do that. So you were flooded. You've gotten flooded over and over again. Now you just decide like, okay, I need to raise my structure. Come back to the SBA and say, hey, I need more money to raise my structure. You can even use it to relocate, refinance, pay your insurance deductibles. So it's a lot to the program, but I always say apply, and then decide later what you may need those funds for.
Okay, well, you just mentioned, relocation. If somebody needed to relocate because of that storm, can these loans assist in that process?
Yes, absolutely. If you are just tired of being flooded or, over and over again, or whatever the circumstances may be, or if you were just flooded one time and you just say, I can't mentally or physically go through this again, I need to relocate. Absolutely. Submit your application, discuss that with your loan officer, with your case manager, and they will help you through that process.
Okay, now, I know residents have heard of these programs in the past, but how they've changed in recent years with the increase in demand, because Mother Nature's not been very nice to us.
Not very nice. Yep. Like I said, we're going to have to, start talking more and preparing more. But So the SBA loan amounts used to be a little bit lower, but we, made those changes last year. Right now, homeowners can receive up to $500,000 and another $100,000 to replace their personal belongings, like their automobiles, their fixtures and things in their homes. And also, renters can receive up to $100,000 to repair or replace their personal belongings, including automobiles. And businesses, they're still at the $2 million max, but they can have that increased if they are a major source of employer. So those loan amounts have been raised and increased to meet the demand of, a fuller recovery, making people as whole as possible after an incident like this and those to come.
All right, let's talk about the residents for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody wants to go ahead and apply for one of these loans, what sort of materials or documentation should that person bring when they're going to meet with your representatives?
Yes, so it's about the same for businesses and homeowners. So
Okay.
for homeowners, make sure you bring your ID, of course. Have information about your deed or your lease. Have information about your insurance if you have insurance. We're not asking you to bring the insurance policy to us or the deed with us or the lease with us, but we'll just ask you general questions off of that, just to make sure you know that information. For businesses, and I do want to mention something too before I forget. So every, businesses, you have a home too. So some people got hit twice. So I'm a business owner and I got flooded in my home. I got flooded. You can apply for that home and that business as well. But I think I was talking about what do you need to bring in? Sorry about that.
Yeah. Oh, no.
So make sure you have your ID, your photo ID. Make sure you have information about your deed or your lease, information about your insurance. Even if you don't have insurance, that's fine as well. But just have that information so we can get started. Later on, once we put in all your information and your social, make sure you have your social too. So we put in all your information, then it goes to the processing and disbursement center. The processing center will look over everything, read it, make sure the I's are dotted, your forms are correct. And from that, if they need additional information, you will be called or you will be emailed.
Okay, I know some people, including myself, get a little weary when they hear they have to fill out all these forms and deal with the government. Can you talk us through that a little bit?
Yes, all I have to say, I've been doing this for a long time. All I have to say is don't take yourself out of the recovery process before you even start. We're going to have to start somewhere. So don't deny yourself before you even start and even walk into the building and start the process. We are there to help you. If there's something that you don't understand from the language and it may seem a little confusing, you may just be like, no, wait a minute. Come talk to us at the disaster recovery centers. Come talk to us at the business recovery centers. We will help you. You don't even have to submit an application. Just come in and get all of your questions answered. But we want to make it as comfortable and as safe as possible. But if you don't feel like you want to come in person and you're just a little bit weary of going into a building, you can do that all online and it's going to be the same process. You upload a picture of your ID, you upload your social security card, so that we can have all that, personal information to get your application started. But it's, if I had to say anything, just go in while we have the centers open. It's nice to go in person, even just to answer questions. Even if you don't want to apply, you just want to get the questions answered, just come in and talk to us. Everybody there, I promise you, is not scary. Everybody is human and
Right.
want to help you through the process. Yes.
It is. So when listeners are affected by the floods and they're considering maybe applying for these disaster loans, what are some of the factors that they should consider before they make the decision?
Well, I would say, number one, make sure you are in a declared county. You don't have to wait for your insurance, but if you have insurance, go ahead and talk to them first, which a lot of people already have done that. I have talked to some businesses in the area where their insurance may not have covered everything, or they're still waiting. You can submit your application with SBA before you even settle with the insurance. We can't duplicate the funds, but we will surely fill in the gap and get you some funds probably before your insurance company will. Another factor to consider is just look at the program is very, very favorable to disaster survivors. Up to 30 years to repay the debt. There's no interest. There is no payment for 1 full year from your first disbursement, whatever that date may be. Everybody's date is different. The interest rate is extremely low. Like I said earlier, you can use it for refinance or relocation, pay your insurance deductibles. There's just so much to the program that, and the reason for that is because you can't choose when you're going to have something happen to you like this. But we want to make sure that, people are considering all those factors. There's no prepayment penalty. Whatever you get approved for, take it and send back what you don't use or need. So there's a lot to it, but we try to make the program as well-rounded as possible to meet needs of different people.
Well, you had mentioned, you had touched on just a little while ago, that you can do this online. Some people can't make it during regular business hours. So can they apply online, or is there anywhere else for them to apply?
Absolutely. So you can go to sba.gov/disaster. I think it was across the screen. Yep, there we go. So you can go to sba.gov/disaster. And what it's going to do is going to say apply for disasters. You click there, which disaster, you click Massachusetts or whatever your state. It's very simple, very user friendly. If you are not that technological savvy, just come into the center and talk to us. The business recovery centers, you can be any SBA applicant. You don't have to be a business to go there. We'll help anybody at the centers. And yeah, you can do everything online too.
Well, you've made it very simple for us and made people
Hopefully.
feel comfortable.
Hopefully.
Because the government's a big, scary thing sometimes.
It's very overwhelming. The process, going through a disaster and then you have to read through all of this language that you may not understand. We have, people in the center that can speak different languages. We are in the disaster recovery centers with FEMA. So we have the resources there, but, you just have to come in and just, you have to start.
Right. That's the big thing.
So,
Well, Ms. Tauheedah, thank you very much for taking the time to come on the show today. I'm sure you've shared a lot of good information for our local people, our residents and businesses.
Yes.
It is run across the screen a couple times where they can reach out and contact you if they need to. So thank you. Thank you for coming up from Florida. I know we've had Florida weather for a couple of days, but
nice.
We're going to have rainy weather tomorrow.
Oh,
hopefully nothing serious. But thank you once again for coming on the show.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me. Bye, everybody.
Big shout out to James and the team over there at AACS. Folks, thanks once again for joining us for this week's weekly update, the United Regional Chamber of Commerce. See you next week. Everybody stay safe.